Hi, this is Chris from Motolegends, aka the Twat in the Cap, here today to talk to you about a very exciting helmet. It's the Shoei Glamster. Now, some of you will know our views about retro helmets. We've been pushing for a good quality, sophisticated retro helmet for years. There are lots of them on the market. We recently did a video review of all the retro helmets, but they're all compromised in one way or another. Often the fit is not great, they're not particularly comfortable. They let the wind in, they let the rain in, they can be very noisy, they don't have Pinlock visors and so on. So, it was I think in early 2017 that Shoei came to see us. They actually came to see us to talk not about helmets per se, but about some graphics for helmets. They showed us a load of patterns and paint colours for new lids. We went through them, and to tell the truth, we weren't particularly impressed with any of them. There were some very wild graphics there, and we didn't think that they were appropriate for a brand like Shoei. But at the end of the meeting, we said, can we pitch to you an idea for a retro helmet? Which we did. We talked them through it. A Japanese guy with his interpreter, as we were going through it, was taking furious notes, but we weren't sure that he was really going to do anything about it or really understood what we were saying. And of course, what we were saying was that with the growth in retro bikes these days, there isn't a helmet that you could wear safely and comfortable on the kind of bikes we're talking about. Bikes like the R9T, like the Guzzi V7, like the Kawasaki Z900RS, Triumph Bonnevilles and the like. These helmets are fine, they look the part, but they're not fantastic if you want to ride any distance at any speed. We didn't hear anything for a while, and then last year at the Intermot show in Germany, someone took us aside and said, yes, there's progress being made. Earlier this year, we were sent an NDA to sign about the release of the new helmet, and we saw it at EICMA a month or so ago. The helmet is now here. We've taken it for a test ride, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. So, this is the helmet we're talking about. Now, even though I'd like to believe that we had something to do with Shoei's decision to make this helmet, I want to make it absolutely clear we had nothing to do with the naming of it. It has quite literally the worst name we've come across for any helmet. It's called the Shoei Glamster. I don't know where that name came from. My fear is it's meant to be a co-joining of the words hipster and glamour. Whatever it is, it's a crappy name. The lid, however, is pretty much exactly what we would have wanted. We wanted a helmet that had that smooth round dome of a 1980s Arai or a Shoei, but we wanted it to have all of the features that you'd expect in a modern, sophisticated helmet. This helmet's pretty much got everything we would want. It's an AIM shell, so that is Shoei's standard advanced integrated matrix shell that they use on all of their high-end helmets, so there's no compromise here in terms of safety. It's got a multi-density EPS, again, as you would expect. It's a really light helmet. This one we weighed in at 1,150 grams. That's a lot lighter than the equivalent Arai that's coming onto the market a few months before this. That was 1,550. That's a much larger helmet, a much heavier lid, obviously. So this feels, in some ways, slightly less substantial, but there's nothing wrong with lightness. There's certainly no trade-off in terms of safety. So some of the things that we were looking for, a proper venting, which you don't find in most retro lids. You've got a full vent here on the chin, open and closed. You've got vents here. Don't think they do a lot. They don't open or close. They will allow a wee bit of air in, but I think they're there almost as much for show as they are for actual functionality. So this still isn't the most sophisticated helmet on the market, but I suppose in this particular arena, one's not going to expect that. What we do have is a proper rubber seal. Again, when we look at most of the retro helmets on the market, if it rains, you're going to get a facial shower. So this is a proper lid. That's going to stop rain coming in. It's going to keep the noise out. It's got a nice retro-looking visor mechanism, so you're not going to get the QSV system that you do on some helmets that enables you to pull the helmet off nice and easy and quickly. But that's fine, and it certainly looks the part. In terms of the shape of the lid, pretty sure that this is very much based on the Shoei JO. It's the same sloping profile. You've got this little cam tail. This helmet we've got, it's a sample. It doesn't have the chin curtain, but I've seen pictures. It will come with a chin curtain, either fitted or in the box. as indeed it will come with a Pinlock. This visor is Pinlock, pin prepared, but the importer tells us that there will be a Pinlock 120 or its Shoei equivalent in the box. Of course, the thing that we really like about Shoeis, all Shoeis, is the ability to fit different cheek pads and headliners. These are not the chin pads. They look like it, but they're not the chin pads, or sorry, the cheek pads, either from the JO or the X0. Frustratingly, they're a little bit different, so we're going to have to wait for Shoei to supply those, but we will have 3 different sizes. And in the lid, again, it fits like the JO. We can pull this out, and we've got 3 different sizes of headliner. So this is pretty much exactly what we asked for. It's a really light lid. It's going to be very easy to live with. But I suppose the proof of the pudding is going to be, what is it like to ride in? And now I'm going to go out for a ride, and I will tell you what I think. So here I am on my R9T, taking the Shoei Glamster out for its first ride. I suppose the first thing I would say is that, much as I love Shoei's helmets, I'm not normally a Shoei fit, but this is pretty comfortable. I tried it on in the shop and I thought it was a little bit tight on the back of my head. This has got the standard headliner in, but it's still comfortable. Whether I could ride for 3 or 4 hours in it, I don't know, but as it is, it's fine. I don't have earplugs in, which I suppose normally I would do. I can detect some wind noise. A little bit unfair on the helmet. This is a pre-production example of the Glamster, and it doesn't have the chin curtain in, so obviously air is going to enter underneath the helmet. That's going to hit the ears. That's going to create wind noise. But I think even in this form, if I had earplugs in, it'll be fine. The other thing this helmet doesn't have fitted at present is a Pinlock. It does come Pinlock ready, as we've explained, so I don't think that'll be a problem. But it's raining, it's a bit cold out, certainly no sign of misting up at present. I've opened the vents, but I don't think misting is an issue. What the helmet is certainly is light. Feels really nice to wear. I've ridden in the Arai Rapide-Neo. That feels very solid, feels a very safe helmet. Feels a traditional Arai helmet, I suppose, but it's a lot heavier than this helmet. So I could reach a position where, if you were doing more miles, if you were commuting or going touring, I might be able to make a case for the Arai. But in terms of popping out at weekends, having a helmet that's easy to live with, then I think I'm liking the Shoei. It's quite a nice closure mechanism here. You just push it, that opens the lid, so there's a crack position. Nice clunk to close it. But if I did need to ride with it open, that's quite a nice extra facility to have. I'm going to go and do a U-turn here, and then go back out, back to the office, try and get an overtake in, or build up a little bit of speed on the straight. But I can't really see there being any issues. This is, after all, the same helmet as a JO and an X0. I've done a lot of miles in those, and I think they're fabulous. Road is clear. Let's go. So having said that, I thought that the Arai might potentially make a better touring and commuting helmet. I think I would have no problems wearing the Shoei Glamster either. So I think this helmet is the helmet that we've been expecting, that we've been wanting someone to make. It's too early to say how it's going to fare compared with the Arai Rapide-Neo. but compared with any of the other retro helmets, it's really in a different league. There's no buffeting, it fits tightly around the cheeks, I feel cosseted, it feels comfortable. Not been a heavily wet day, but certainly no notion of rain coming into the helmet. The noise, I've mentioned a couple of times, but that's to do with the chin curtain. I don't think there's any noise going to come in via the seal on the visor. It's a lovely light lid, and when they become available, I'm pretty sure this is the helmet that I'm going to choose when I'm out on my R9T. Here we are back at the ranch. A short ride, but enough to give us an impression. So here we are back in the shop. I'm here with my colleague Sean, who's our shop manager. I've now been out in the Shoei Glamster. I've done a few miles in the Arai. Sean has ridden both helmets, but he's an Arai man historically. He's done some commuting in the Arai, so he has more of a valid viewpoint than me. What I would say is that Sean is one of the best deconstructors of motorcycling products that I've come across. In fact, some of the manufacturers now come to see us here to get Sean's opinion on new products. He can put a helmet on or a jacket on and he will spot immediately the things that aren't going to work on the bike. So always interested to get Sean's opinion on the helmet. So Sean, you've ridden both. What's your general view?
General view really is just Arai feels like the sort of helmet you could use every single day, whereas Shoei feels more like a weekend ride, something. It just this seems to encapsulate you more. It seems slightly quieter. It feels sort of more all-day comfy, but that's going to, head shapes and things will change.
I must admit that feels, whereas this feels like a helmet designed to appeal to the kind of rider who's going to be riding the kind of retro bikes we're talking about. That feels in some ways, and I'm not sure whether it's a good or a bad thing, but that feels like an Arai of old. In fact, I'm not sure it's much different to an Arai of old. They've just taken all the bits off, they've smoothed it out, but it feels like a heavier, it feels like a more solid helmet. In fact, this morning I weighed these, that's 1,550 grams, that's 1,150, 400 grams is quite a bit.
Yes, that is quite a lot. That's a good few bars of chocolate.
Yep.
So partly that's just down to the construction of the Arai versus the construction of the Shoei. They have a much harder outer shell, and Shoei use a softer shell, which enables them to have a lighter.
So because it's got a harder shell, because my understanding is that Arai shells are hard, they will take repeated impacts better than many other helmets, but because that doesn't absorb energy, they then have a thicker EPS.
Yeah, so the thicker EPS, it's great for comfort, because you don't get the harder EPS pushing on places on your head, but it does result in a heavier helmet, and if you're going to get problems with your neck or Sunday rides, I think lightweight helmets help.
And that probably also explains the difference in size, because there's a difference in weight, but when you look at the two helmets side by side, both of these are mediums, and that's a substantially larger helmet.
Yeah, and although they do have 4 shell sizes in this, I think it's going to be 3 or 4 in that as well.
It's three in the Shoei.
So it's not just a one size fits all helmet, which people often think of with a larger helmet.
I've ridden in this. It was somewhat of an unfair test, unfortunately. This is a prototype helmet. It didn't have a chin guard. It was a wee bit noisy, but I think that's maybe an unfair conclusion to come to. Sean, you reported that you thought this was fairly quiet until you opened the eyebrow vents.
Yeah, these vents, they're great for getting air in, but with air comes noise. So if you're really hot, just wear earplugs when you open those vents. They do work though, they work very well. But with those closed, I think these cheek pads come up quite high on the face, and they just block off a lot of wind noise. You've also got a small chin curtain here. This just wraps round. These cheek pads are sprung, and that helps hug the face. So overall, I found it a reasonably quiet helmet. Most Arais have got side pods, which is what makes them noisy, and these are not the same as the other side pods you get on other Arai. So again, another thing to help cut down noise. I don't think that's what they've intended. I just think it's something that's happened with the style.
Yeah, in fact, Arai had always said they'd never change those side pods. Ironic that they should do something retro and then find that actually it works even better.
Yeah.
Must admit, I was in some ways surprised. I don't know whether I was disappointed when I first saw this helmet, because this I would call a classic 80s racing helmet shape, the kind of thing that Barry Sheen and all those guys from that era would have worn in terms of shape. This has got this funny nose on.
Was Simpson Bandit or something like that?
Yeah, and I think from what I've heard that the Arai designer, when he designed this helmet, he wanted to have something that could cross over from classic and retro bikes, but also would also work for the modern custom crew. So I think he's been a wee bit more aggressive here to make the helmet appeal to them. I have to say, if I was going to ride with one of these, and I think as soon as they arrive, I will grab myself a Shoei. I kind of prefer this. This is more the helmet that we had always envisaged, but I suppose that's just a personal taste. But Sean, is there? I can't see a lot of clear blue water between the two helmets. Do you think there's a big difference between them?
I just think that if you're a daily user, you want one helmet, that's going to be best for you. If you're the sort of person that wants that feels slightly more focused to the custom market, and if you're the kind of person that's tried on or owns an X0 or the JO, it will feel very familiar, very comfortable. They've both got changeable linings and things, so you can get a good fit on both of them. But I just think that's more, I don't want to say toy because it's not protective, but it just feels like something you wouldn't go touring around Europe on, whereas I think I could do that.
Flimsy would be a cruel word, but in comparison with that, it feels almost insubstantial.
Yeah.
But I don't think that has any great bearing, no great bearing on safety. Obviously this is an AIM shell. It's going to be way beyond the ECE 2205 standard, so, and I'm not sure you can say that about all of the retro helmets. So from a safety perspective, I don't think you're going to be putting yourself in a difficult position with either of these lids. Anyway, Sean, thanks a lot. Interested to get your views. This helmet's going to be with us. We're recording this in November 2019. We're expecting this to arrive before Christmas. This is going to be early next year, March, April time.
We'll do another update as well.
Yep.
On the fit.
Yes, we're going to do a video on this in a couple of days. Sean has got now all the cheek pads and the liners, and has been trained in some extra fine tuning. So we'll have a video about making this fit pretty much as well as it can do. As a lid, it's priced at £450. No, it's not. It's priced at £400. And I'm a little bit disappointed with that, in that the Shoei RYD, which in some ways is a better lid, it's a less cool looking lid, but it's got more components to it, it's got better venting. That was priced at $350. But I think what Shoei has done, they've looked around, they've looked at the prices that people are charging for retro lids, the Bells, the Heddens and others, and figured that if they can charge so much for their helmets, then as this is a Shoei with all the things that this adds to the market, they can get away with £400. So I think it's about where it's at. The Arai is a little bit more expensive. The Arai starts at $450 for plain colours, so that's more expensive again. But I think if you do compare it with some of the other retro helmets on the market, this helmet is worth the extra £50, £100, whatever it is. So in terms of timing, we're told that this is due to arrive with us in March, April next year, that being March, April 2020. Can never promise that. But Shoei are fairly good, but their helmets normally arrive at the end of the first quarter or just into the second quarter. Frustratingly, we won't get the cheek pads initially. We like to be able to do a custom fit on this from day one, but we won't be able to. That's unless things are different this time round. What we'll often do is we will size someone in a helmet, work out whether they need a thicker or thinner cheek pad, a thicker or thinner head lining, and then we'll agree to just swap those over when those parts do eventually come in. So even though we might not have the requisite parts until somewhat further into the year, we can do a custom sizing from the beginning. Comes in a range of colours, not a huge range. I think there are 4 or 5 colours. You can see those on the website. There's some graphics as well. If you want to read more about the helmet in more detail, you'll find it on the website motolegends.com. If you want to subscribe to our bulletins where we tell you about all new products as they arrive into the building, then you can do that also on the front page. There's what we call a tile there that you can subscribe on. If you'd like also to watch our videos in future, again, any exciting new products we're going to do a video on just as they come into stock, then subscribe on the button below. Anyway, hope you like the Shoei Glamster. Sorry about the name, that's not our fault. It's going to be with us early-ish 2020. It's a great lid, and I think it's going to blow all of the others, with perhaps the exception of the Arai, into the weeds. Anyway, this is Chris. Thanks a lot. See you soon.